You can now add Jesus Gamez to that list as well. The fullback arrived at St. James's Park amid much excitement during the summer of 2016, but he leaves Tyneside having barely featured for the Magpies. It has been a curious transfer, and one which very much goes down as a failure. While Matt Stells, £5.5 million, and Akraf Lazar, £2 million, may have been more expensive flops from the summer of 2016, Gamez's two-year stint at St. James's Park has perhaps been the most disappointing. This is a former Spain under-23 international, after all, who captained Malaga and also represented Atletico Madrid in the Champions League and made more than 300 appearances for the two clubs collectively. Jesus Gamez, Image, Newcastle United. He may not necessarily have been a household name in England when he first arrived in the northeast, but there was justified hope that Rafa Benitez had unearthed a gem who would bring the experience and know-how Newcastle needed to secure promotion out of the Championship. Before acquiring Gamez, Benitez had sought references from a number of his contacts in Spain. Despite having grown up as a Real Madrid fan, and then having coached both the club's academy and first team, Benitez's connections at Atletico are exemplary. His contacts reassured him that, though Gamez had suffered from fitness problems during his second season at the Vicente Calderón, he would still be able to make an impact in England. And, with Benitez keen to recruit a Spanish speaker who he knew he could communicate messages and instructions across too easily, Gamez on a free transfer appeared to be a good deal. Within weeks of his arrival at Newcastle's Benton Training Centre, however, eyebrows were being raised by some of United's backroom staff and Benitez began to have reservations about the references he had received. A succession of niggling injuries restricted Gamez's early season appearances, and Benitez was forced to alter the defender's training schedule as Newcastle's medical staff also changed the treatment he received in an attempt to get him fully fit. By the end of the 2016-17 campaign, United had been promoted as championship winners, yet Gamez had made only 7 appearances in all competitions. Jesus Gamez warms up during the Newcastle United training session. Image, Newcastle United. Even when he was fit during the second half of the campaign, Gamez was often still omitted from the matchday squad. Last summer United would have offloaded the Spanish fullback if they could have done. Benitez appeared to come to the conclusion that Gamez was not first-team material, but the defender was content with his healthy pay packet in the Northeast and, in spite of his lack of first-team football, he was happy to stick around. With little interest from elsewhere when Gamez's name was floated around by intermediaries last summer, he remained on Tyneside to see out the final year of his contract. Able to play on both defensive flanks, he should have been an automatic option when both DeAndre Yedlin and Paul Dummett were injured early in the campaign, but even Chancel Mbemba sometimes featured at fullback ahead of Gamez. When Gamez put in a half-decent performance during Newcastle's impressive 1-0 victory at Swansea City in September, supporters briefly wondered if he had finally made his breakthrough at United. But that turned out to be merely a fleeting highlight in an otherwise similarly substandard season. Seemingly Benitez determined that, physically, Gamez simply could not cope with the pace and physicality of the Premier League. He was never going to be offered a new contract, and, at the age of 33, he is now a free agent who is set to return to Spain in search of a club. A player more renowned for his frequent social media postings than his on-field performances at Newcastle, Gamez fittingly confirmed his Magpies exit with a Twitter post on Monday. "Dear friends, it is time to say goodbye and especially thank you," Gamez wrote. "Thank you for all these 2 seasons. Thank you to our fans, to my teammates and to the club, and all those who work there for their daily support, and for making my family and I feel like Newcastle is our home. I take back with me a beautiful experience, and a lot of friends and good memories which I will never forget. I will always hold you close." Gamez was always smiling behind the scenes, though his lack of confidence in speaking English ensured he did not conduct interviews with the media. Despite that, he developed a connection with a section of Newcastle fans who will hold a tinge of disappointment that his 2-year spell was so underwhelming. For Benitez, he will write games off as a calculated gamble, which failed due to deaf information, and he will welcome the space which has now been freed up in his wage budget. Gamez himself can rest easy, meanwhile, safe in the knowledge that his name will be safely ensconced in any future list of Newcastle's strangest ever signings.